Welcome back to the Milwaukee Show, and today we are talking about the Boston Bruins situation where Jeremy Swayman wants to be paid, man. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so the Boston Bruins are having a little bit of a tough time with goaltending, which is a rarity for the Boston Bruins. Goaltending is usually like their strength, one of the pillars that hold up that team no matter what, but that is falling apart in front of our eyes. So it's kind of a bizarre thing to see, and it's all because they've made a few decisions and have left them with an RFA starting goaltender and a goaltender who isn't so good ready for them to go. So let's talk more about it. But first, if you're more excited than me for the hockey season to start in just a few fucking days, then you should celebrate with me by hitting that subscribe button so you stay up to date on all the NHL games upcoming this year, and it also does a little bit of confetti thing, so then you celebrate together. So it's like... Anyways, yeah, subscribe. But anyways, let's actually talk about the Boston Bruins. So the Boston Bruins, the Bees, right? They are having a tough time. Jeremy Swayman holding out and not signing a deal as training camp preseason's looming very close to the end as the NHL season starts on October 4th, which is just in like a few is this week. So things aren't looking too good for them, right? And news just broke this morning that Joonas Korpisalo will be starting Game 1 on October 8th against their rival, the Florida Panthers. It's funny to say rival because just like 2 years ago, no one ever would have thought of them being a rival, and now here we are where the Bruins versus the Florida Panthers is a must-see game. But anyways, in that must-see season opener for the Boston Bruins, Korpisalo, the first Finnish goalie since Tuukka Rask, will be suiting up no matter what and starting that game. And overall, I know there's debate, and I know that there's different opinions on Korpisalo. He's had an okay preseason by my standards. Nothing too special for me, but I don't care about preseason, right? Preseason is so whatever. Joonas Korpisalo had an absolutely abysmal, a brutal, and the worst, whatever words you want to come up with, year with the Ottawa Senators last season, right? And of course, the Boston Bruins are a way better team than the Ottawa Senators are. Korpisalo was the hugest problem with the Ottawa Senators. He was a black hole of goaltending. And that sounds like it should be a good thing because it's like he's sucking up the puck. But no, he was the opposite of that. He was just an invisible wall. Well, that one's like... You get it. He sucked. Joonas Korpisalo was abysmal. Horrible for the Ottawa Senators. And in net is a huge strength needed for the Boston Bruins. Look at what they did in the playoffs, right? Without Jeremy Swayman in net, sure, Ullmark would have went in there, but Swayman was the man. He was, for me, I would say his play was maybe a little bit better than Igor Shesterkin, but regardless, Igor Swayman, they were neck and neck for actual play. Like, Jeremy Swayman, he was putting on the goaltending that could win a team on his own a Stanley Cup, and obviously he didn't get there, but he was unreal for them, right? So Jeremy Swayman needed, for that deal, he is needed for this team to be great. The Bruins need and operate underneath an amazing goaltender. They always have. That is just one of their backstops that push them over the line into true contender. That's happened with Tuukka Rask, Tim Thomas, Ullmark, and now here, right? That is what has pushed them over the line into that. They are an Eastern Conference team every single year. And now they're, you know what I mean, contending for it, right? And a legitimate contender. And now, they've decided that over this offseason that they are going with Jeremy Swayman. His amazing just few months and especially playoff run earned him that number one spot for the Boston Bruins, and they decide to trade away their Vezina winner, starting and signed goaltender Linus Ullmark, and send him away to Ottawa for Joonas Korpisalo, Mark Kastelik, I think some other player that I don't remember, and like a pick or something. Nothing that amazing. It was a horrible return, if you remember. And so they get nothing in return except a backup goaltender, the Jeremy Swayman. And now they have put themselves in a position where they have no leverage to sign Jeremy Swayman, nothing to threaten him with, and Jeremy Swayman can ask for whatever he wants because the alternative for the Bruins and the reality that we're in right now is Joonas Korpisalo being their netminder. That is not a good look for the Boston Bruins. And so that's not already good, right? And the Bruins, with or without Jeremy Swayman, Are they a good team? I would say yes. They're definitely competitive. And if a team like Ottawa with Eunice Korpisalo in net almost was like somewhat in the wild card race, then the Bruins with a Korpisalo in net in this year, especially with their additions and stuff, I think is definitely still solid. Like a top 3, not number 1, but definitely top 3 or 4 in the Atlantic Division. So easily, right? So Bruins still kind of in a fine spot, but it's not the team that they want to have, right? And especially if things get bad and bad and bad, and by December 1st, if they don't sign Jeremy Swayman, then he can't sign at all. He will be out for the whole year. So Jeremy Swayman and the Bruins will be screwed, and with just Eunice Korpisalo in net, and for the playoffs, we obviously know how they would do without Jeremy Swayman last year. They would just lose no matter what. So here's this team that is clearly buying in to try to be a contending champion, getting Elias Lindholm, bringing in Zadorov, right? Keeping around the team. The Bruins are clearly still in the win now mode. They're not rebuilding, retooling for the future or something. They're not like extending. They are going in now. And without Swayman or a good goalie, I mean, they didn't beat Florida. They're not going to do it, right? So they need to sign this guy, right? Jeremy Swayman, hot goaltender in the world. And I'm going to have the whole time to talk about who is the best goalie in the world. But for just right now, I would say that Swayman is definitely top 5 material. Top 5 easily, right? Where you slot him in there is whatever. But top 5 in the whole world, being up there with Hellebuck and Bobrovsky and Shesterkin and Sorokin and Vasilevsky and Ottinger, like whoever you want to put in that mix, like he is in there, right? And yeah, so he is up there in contention, but there is an issue. His resume is not very full. He does not have some big long list of games he's played. He only has a handful of times where he has been the man, right? And this last year, this hot, amazing run he went on in the playoffs and at the end of the season, being the number 1 goalie for just for a few months, isn't a whole lot to go off of, especially for a young goaltender, and a young goaltender that has never been a number 1. And I know everyone, I'm not the first person to say it, but to be a number 1 goaltender for more than 44 games, which is like more than half the season, is what you go for if you're the starting goalie, because that's literally what starting would be, right? Otherwise, you'd be half and half goalie or less. So Jeremy Swayman's never been the number 1 guy through a whole season, where Jeremy Swayman last year, where he gets his hot little run, he didn't need to be the number 1 guy for an entire year and have all of that work and just like his whole body get tortured by pucks and then him going to the playoffs, right? He didn't have to go through all that. It was Ullmark and then Swayman. And now it's between them how much money he needs to get paid. And I think for most people, and I think what the consensus is, like, a smart move would be for, like, the general manager to give him, like, a 3-year deal, 2 years, and, 2 years for, like, $4 million, right, to prove yourself. And that would make sense to me, especially since he's not a truly proven goaltender. But we do have some word this morning that Don Sweeney hinted at offering him an 8x8 million by saying that he'd have 64 million reasons to play, which the only really smart way to make that make sense is 8 years for the young, I think he's 25 years old. Yeah, 8 years for $8 million, 64 million. That seems to me right now, through a unproven timeline, a big ask, right? And apparently Swayman said, he said no to that. Clearly, he is either holding out to see what Shesterkin gets paid, because apparently if he imagines himself equal or a little less than Igor Shesterkin, which Shesterkin apparently has been saying 12 million, I guess I've heard numbers of, which I guess with the cap rising and him kind of being the number 1 goalie, that would kind of set a precedent. But do you think Jeremy Swayman at this point is if Shesterkin is 12, because the best players in the world get paid 12 something million, if Shesterkin is 12 million, does that mean Swayman's 10 or 11? I don't think you can say that right now, because there's not enough. There's nothing to go base that off of. So to me, usually I am taking the side of the player, and for the numbers being asked, I'm yeah, that makes sense, but also at the same time, I don't know. In this case, Jeremy Swayman, an 8x8, feels like that is undercutting him. But at the same time, I mean, it's an overpayment for him, and rejecting that is kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, if in 3 years, if the goaltending ranking goes Shesterkin, Swayman, and then whoever, Dustin Wolf, probably not. But if they are the 1A 1B, then like if Shesterkin gets what he wants and gets like 11.5, let's say, and then Swayman deserves 10 in 3 years, then it's like, I don't know, because 8 million would definitely be an underpayment. So it is kind of a hard decision to make there, especially for 8 years. The big contract that would ride him to like the end of his career where he's definitely, starts dropping off. So it is understandable from each side. But that is kind of why you get that make it like a you prove it deal, like a 2-year bridge deal for Jeremy Swayman. So to me, this is such like a bad situation the Bruins put them in, right? This is the Bruins' fault at the end of the day. Because instead of keeping on and holding, because you're trying to win now, right? Clearly the Bruins, if they try to keep Swayman around for 8 years, I think that would be a ridiculous idea for Jeremy Swayman to buy into. Because do you think the Bruins are going to stay competitive for 8 more years? Probably not. I would say, especially with like Marchand going away and their defensive core being already older, not really young. Like they don't have a lot of building blocks. Like things are shortening in their big window, right? So to me, it's like I would have kept Olmark in this situation. The Bruins are clearly like win now. Currently we have a window of 2-3 years left of being true top 10 contenders, right? That is where I'm like, they should have kept Olmark, and especially before they got a deal signed, because now they put themselves where Swayman can say whatever he wants, he can conduct whatever he wants, and the Bruins have nothing to go off of, right? And fair enough for Swayman, right? I mean, he can say whatever he wants. It's not like the Bruins can threaten him, they're going to trade him away? You don't think, the top contender in the world, well, not the Devils at this point, but who's another team that needs a goaltender? Actually, I don't know, because there's a lot of really good... You get what I mean, though. Another team will swoop in and pick up that deal no matter what and give him what he wants. So it's not really up to Swayman, and he's young, so he's still got plenty of time. So it's an interesting thing to really think about. Like a team like the Sabres, right? With all of that talent that they've got. What if they're like, here, we'll give you Levi if you want your goalie for the future, and then we'll take Swayman for the now. You don't think that kind of contract wouldn't work? Or you get what I mean, something like that? I don't know. The Bruins have really shot themselves in the foot with their dealings, and it is going to be interesting to see what the actual payment is. So, to me, I don't know where this goes, but you tell me down below. How much do you think Jeremy Swayman is worth and how much he's going to get paid? Because to me, the only smart thing and the realistic thing is that we'll eventually see a 2-year, maybe a 1-year deal, because Swayman definitely seems more like he wants his money now. He'll get a 1-year deal worth $4 or $5 million, I would say. And because he clearly wants his money. So if he gets a 1-year contract, $4 to $5 million, and then cashes in is probably what I would imagine us seeing. But other than that, I don't really know. So that is all I've got to say. So thank you for watching this, made it this far. Please, I am begging you, please subscribe. And until next time, too sweet, I hope you have an amazing day. And ta-ta for now.